morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Panama City. And a shout out to our online community as well. It's always a wonderful presence when they show up on a Sunday and say, "Hey, I've been watching you online for a while." I'm like, "Awesome." Yeah. So we give thanks for the imagination that created the internet. Yes, indeed. So this morning we are continuing on in our exploration of our 12 powers. It's a series that we are diving into each and every week throughout this summer based on the foundational premise in the book 12 Powers of Man by Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity. Awesome, you are getting really good at this. Well done. 12 weeks of knowing that, Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, is the author of this book. I think you're gonna really have it. So not only was Charles inspired by the 12 powers and all of the thoughts and energies and disciples and scriptures and energy centers of the physical body that were in and a part of this work, but he gained that inspiration from other authors and new thought teachers of his time. One in particular that I've spoken about a number of times is Emma Curtis Hopkins. This charismatic teacher was the one who inspired Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and their teachings and love of truth, as well as Ernest Holmes and his teaching of truth, which is our cousin known as religious science. And so these two groups of people have been inspired by the same great thinkers, authors, and metaphysicians. And so we give thanks for them and how they chose to show up in the world. Our study of the 12 powers will focus on each one of the powers individually, its representative color, and the location that it is within the body temple, so that we can focus on those two things during our meditation time to strengthen our own power. So our intention in this study is to know exactly what it is for each and every attribute and gift of God to be healthy and balanced. And in order to know that, we need to know what it is when it's underdeveloped and what it is when it's overdeveloped, because we learn by opposites. And so that common knowledge will help us learn where we are and how we can return to health and balance. So at the end of this series, our goal is to have a greater depth of all 12 of these powers because it came with the original package. We all have them. May not use them, but we all have them. And it is not a complicated study, but mindfulness matters. So our attention to what we do and think and say and be in our life is critical. Last week we talked about the attribute of power, also called dominion and mastery. Power is the ability to master, dominate, and control our ego, our base senses, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and our beliefs. The metaphysical meaning of power is man's innate control over his thoughts and feelings. It is a quickening from on high when spirit rushes in and moves this awareness through you, where we are then able to receive power, our personal power, and have mastery over our human self, so that we can express the spiritual self that we are. We are both human and spirit. So the mind and the body of mankind has the power to transform energy from the invisible plane into the manifest plane. We each have that gift. But the important thing to understand is that whatever we see in the outer had its original manifestation in the inner. So what you think about creates. Once we know that the law of mind action is actively at work, whether we're conscious of it or not conscious of it, we can be more mindful of what are we thinking and create and draw to us through the harmonizing power of love to create a world, a life experience that brings joy and peace and harmony and whatever else it is that you desire. To mankind is given the highest power of the universe, which is the power of conscious thought. So I have a habit of giving you homework each and every week. Yay. So your homework last week was to go through the week and identify how are you using this ability of power in your life? Did you acknowledge the divine as that active power and presence in your world? Or did you attribute your thoughts and actions to a divine guidance in some way? Were you inspired through your prayer and meditation practice? Or by something that you heard or read? Did something inspire you just being in nature? That is divine power at work. Or did you notice yourself manipulating your universe with your power? Did you create what it was supposed to be and then do every absolute little thing that you could to make it happen? Because we humans have that ability as well. Have you ever bulldozed through a situation or circumstance in your life? Silence is golden here. Or did you perceive yourself as powerless? Did you convince yourself in some way that you had no power over the situation? If you were there, there was a contributing factor. So, just saying. So each and every week, I invite all of you, and myself included, to look closely at our lives to determine, how am I using this innate ability in my life experience? It takes a whole week to really contemplate that through. But it's a worthy goal. So for this week, we will be moving into the attribute of imagination. Now, imagination is one of what they say is the easiest to use. But for those of you who struggle using it, that may not be true for you. But have you ever talked to a child in the youth ministry department that can come up with this fabulous vision and put it on paper, and it becomes a world with animals and creatures and colors that you've never seen before in your life? But it came out of the imagination of a child. It's fascinating and fabulous to allow and encourage and embrace that creativity. So imagination is the ability to form an image, a picture, to conceptualize or dream. To just dream. Taking time to daydream. Allow your mind to do what it will. It's very healthy. The metaphysical meaning of imagination is the faculty of mind that images and forms. It takes the power to shape and form thought. So those thoughts that you walk around with, that you're creating with, the power of imagination can form those into concrete, tangible things. I wouldn't have this music stand if someone had not thought about it long enough. Nor would you have that chair. Aren't you grateful? And yet, on the same flip side of that coin, we have the power to create things that we really don't want to have happen going on in our lives. Yeah. So we need to be mindful of what it is we are co-creating with the law of mind action. It's a universal law. It's going to work whether you want it to or not. So work it well. This also is tied to our unity principle number 3. This is the law of mind action in its expression. Human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. So there you have it. Thinking, 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 like Pooh Bear. Thinking, 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 thinking. Think positive thoughts. Switching gears, we go to Scripture. In Luke chapter 10, verse 23, it said, "Blessed are the eyes which see what you see." What does that mean? In this chapter of Luke, when you take one sentence out of a context of paragraphs and pages of story, you have to understand that Luke, in this chapter, Jesus is praising God. He is expanding and sharing about his joyfulness, and his moment of appreciation came out in this statement. Blessed are the eyes which see what you see. He was giving thanks for the awareness that he had, not only for himself, but for the awareness that he had for all human beings. For you and me, for those who came before, and for those who will come after. He had the ability to see from the Christ presence, the awakened and expanded consciousness of God within. And he was giving thanks for his ability, and for your ability, and for my ability. I just am lifted up by that statement. For whatever you see from your awakened Christ presence will not only bless you, but it will bless everyone on the planet. That is co-creating a world that works for all. We weren't the first ones to come up with that. He's been doing it for years and years. So this is our example of how it is that we can use our power of wisdom and judgment and marry it to the power of imagination to create something new and wonderful and a blessing. So seeing with the eyes of our innate Christ presence requires both wisdom and imagination. I told you before many times that each one of these powers do not just work in isolation, they work in cooperation with 1, 2, 3, 5 of the others. It is an integral process, and for the comfort of our brain, we study them in little itty bits. But we must weave them together in our lives in order to co-create this harmonious world for ourselves and for one another. Here's another one of my favorites. In Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18, it says, Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Let me expand on that a little bit. Because we don't take Scripture literally. We interpret it metaphysically. We look for the deeper meaning. We take the history, the allegory, the magical, the mythical, and we weave it all together. And then say, how can I apply that to my life right here, July 2017? And so this statement would be read, where there is no vision, meaning a greater divine vision, where there is no vision of God active and present in your life, the people perish. Have you ever been separated from your understanding of God and you had a really bad day? Yeah, laughter means yes. So, those that keep the law, universal law, happy is he or she. So when you work in alignment with universal law, with the gifts of God, the attributes of God in your life, happy is he or she. So, using our power of mastery from last week, we already have the ability to balance that attribute and to use the power of mastery to live in alignment with the law. Adding to it the power of imagination, we are to recognize the use of this law of imaging in this way. Knowing that any picture firmly held in mind in any form is bound to come forth. This is an unchanging universal law. That image might show up today, tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. But it'll show up and you'll be like, I did a treasure map once and that picture was on there. And there it is in your life. You held the image both consciously and subconsciously, and boom, it manifests for you. So visualize yourself and your life in the way that the divine visualizes you. Perfect, whole, healthy, vibrant, prosperous, joyous. That is the truth of your nature. Claim it. Release, which we'll get to later on in the 12 hours, anything that does not look like the truth of your divine nature. It doesn't serve you. There's a French film director, Robert Bresson. He wrote, "Make visible that which without you perhaps would never be seen." So he, in his visionary mindset, is calling forth from each of us to create and make visible in the world your individual, unique contribution. Each and every person and soul on the planet has a unique contribution. I have a unique contribution. You have a unique contribution. You have a unique contribution. I can't do what Donald can do. Not with these plants. Oh, no. He's a master. I can't do what others of you can do. And I might make look easy something that you struggle with. We're each needing to do our part to the best of our ability and the best of our Christ consciousness in order to live our Christ light and to illumine the world. I'm just one little candle. But when you all join me with your little candle, we light up the room. You know you can. It's like doing a jigsaw puzzle. Have you ever been really frustrated because you're doing this puzzle? You know, it's a rainy day in Panama City, and you're doing this puzzle because you can't go outside and play, and there's a piece missing. If you are not living the light of God from within yourself, you are a missing piece of the puzzle. Do you know how frustrated your people are getting? Your friends don't want to play with you anymore. You are a missing piece of the puzzle because you're afraid to allow for your Christ presence to shine. Get out from under the bushel basket, friends. This is what imagination can do for you. See yourself shining. We are each visualizing you as a shining ray of light and hope. Visualize it for yourself. Together, we can make an impeccable change. So our imagination, in our meditation time, if we can focus on the area between our eyes, there is a number of nerves that flow through there, which when activated through our thought and energy process, becomes open and receptive and can deliberately activate the imaging power of mind. We are constantly holding a vision of something. A balanced imagination is the ability to visualize from innate divinity, from the Christ presence. If your imagination is underdeveloped, it shows up in a way that a person cannot see beyond the physical limitations and presence in front of them. They can't imagine what it would look like to be something different. They have only a little bit of ability to create a picture. Even if it's a stick picture, it's a picture. You don't have to be Monet, that job was taken. Go with the stick person if that's what you can do. And visualize. When you're challenged with holding and creating from the power of imagination, you may not feel comfortable in guided meditations where you are led into a peaceful place and then said, oh, imagine yourself by a river. If you can't see the river, you're not going to like that meditation. Get rid of that. Try a different one. Go into silence. Go for a walk. Look for the river. So that when it's raining and you have to meditate from within, you can see the river. Underdeveloped imagination can be outpictured as someone who does not have a belief that they have a creative bone in their body. And there are so many people that speak to that, but it's not true. Go get the Crayolas out. Have a child teach you. If your imagination is overdeveloped, it could show up as a person who is an excessive daydreamer. You know, the ones that just look out the window all the time. La, 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 la. It's healthy, but not 24/7. These individuals are so in a dream world that they can't plant their feet on the earth long enough to take care of themselves and do the daily activities of their life, like getting dressed, taking a shower, brushing your teeth. They're in la la land. They may come off to others as an airhead or flighty, or they could be an outright genius, because it takes that visionary excellence and mastery and overdeveloped imagination to visualize a new car, a new machine, a new path, a new computer, a new software. All of the individuals in our world that have created the industrial and technological revolutions of our time probably were like barely could make breakfast. but they were a genius in another way. So in whatever way imagination is in you, make sure you can balance it from time to time. The other way that the overdeveloped imagination can outpicture is by people who worry. Worry. You know those people because they have this look on their face. You know, life is hard. People are fearful. They can probably tell you intimate details about what the boogeyman looks like. Vivid imagination. And they probably have told you countless stories about their fear-based dramas, disease, and illness, etc., etc., etc. You know, imagination, it's a gift. And so we each get to ask ourselves, how am I using this power of imagination? The question in our mind becomes, am I using this gift from my balanced sense of imagination? Am I using this gift from my divine awareness? Knowing that even though I look like a human being, I'm really a spiritual being? Am I using that gift to align myself with the truth of my nature? Am I co-creating a world that could work for all? And how does my role, my part, my vision apply to the co-creation of that world that works for all? German poet Goethe said, "What you can do or dream, you can do. Begin it." He did not say, hesitate. He said, begin and go. And so your homework for this week, you were waiting for this part. Your homework is to look within to see what can you imagine that would be a contributing factor to co-creating a world that works for all. What is your unique part that you and only you can only do? I got mine. You've got yours. Together, we are a team. And so I invite you to use your gift, whatever it is, in whatever way it expresses. But don't hide it under the bushel basket. Express it, live it, shine with it, illuminate the world with it. It's what we need to do. And in the meanwhile, I'll see you Wednesday evening at Wednesday Exploration to talk about this further, because you can see I'm a little passionate about it. Blessings to you all. Namaste.